Emperor Taiho stood tall and rigid before the massive holographic display that filled the command center. Stars and planets glowed in blue and green, while red warning symbols flashed across entire sectors of space. His four-fingered hands gripped the edge of the control panel as another alert sounded. "The Ardelians have recalled their fleet, Emperor," said Commander Sumi, her voice low. "Their council voted to withdraw all support." Taiho closed his eyes briefly. The Ardelians had been among his most loyal allies for over a century. Their shipyards had built half of the Valerian defense fleet. Now they were gone, just like the others. "How many remain?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "None, Your Majesty," replied Admiral Jiwoo from her position by the tactical display. Her uniform, once pristine white and gold, now showed signs of wear. None of the high command had slept properly in weeks. The Moxites left during the night. "Cycle, the Zendar Collective officially informed us 1 hour ago that they have terminated their protection treaty." Taiho nodded, his face a mask that revealed none of the pain he felt. His empire, built over 3 centuries of careful diplomacy and strategic alliances, had collapsed in less than a month. "The Galactic Council met in emergency session," continued Jiwoo. "They have officially designated all Valerian space as a containment zone. No aid is to enter or leave. They claim it is to prevent the spread of the void hegemony." "They fear," said Taiho simply. "They believe if they abandon us completely, the void hegemony will be satisfied with only our worlds and not pursue them." Next, he turned to look at the map of his capital city below the palace. Millions of his people went about their lives, unaware that their greatest allies had left them to die. "The void ships will reach our outer defense line in 18 days, reported General Ki-hyun, the head of ground forces. "Without the combined fleet, we cannot hold them back. The palace shields will fall 3 days after that." The room fell, silent. Every person there understood what this meant. The end of their civilization was now measured in days. "Your Majesty," said Chief Scientist Minji, breaking the heavy silence. She rarely spoke during military briefings. "Our long-range scanners detected something unusual at the edge of the Cygnus Arm, near the uncharted regions." Taiho turned to her. "Unusual how?" "A small fleet, perhaps 20 vessels. Their drive signatures don't match any known species in our database. They appear to be using a form of faster-than-light travel we haven't encountered before." "Another enemy?" asked General Ki-hyun, his hand moving to the weapon at his side. "Unknown," said Minji. "But they've been moving in a deliberate pattern, as if exploring. They're not using void hegemony movement formations." Admiral Jiwoo straightened her shoulders. "We have one remaining option, Your Majesty. These unknowns. If they're new to this sector, they may not yet understand the threat the void poses. They might listen." Taiho considered this. The idea of begging strangers for help, when even their oldest allies had abandoned them, felt like a final humiliation. Yet a ruler's pride meant nothing compared to the lives of his people. "Prepare a transmission," he ordered. "Broadcast on all frequencies, all languages in our database. Include full data on the void hegemony's movements and tactics. Perhaps these unknowns will show more courage than our former allies." Within hours the message was sent. For 3 days there was no response. Taiho continued preparations for the final defense of his homeworld, not allowing himself to hope. On the 4th day, as he reviewed evacuation plans with his council, Admiral Jiwoo burst into the chamber, her eyes wide. "They've responded! The unknown fleet has changed course. They're heading directly for our homeworld at maximum speed." "Do we know who they are?" asked Taiho. "They call themselves humans," said Jiwoo, consulting her datapad. "They say they come from a planet called Earth in a system they call Sul. According to their message, they've only achieved interstellar travel within the last 50 years. They are coming to help, Your Majesty." "A newly spacefaring race," asked General Ki-hyun in disbelief. "What can they possibly do against the void?" Their exact message was, "No one should face extinction alone. We're coming. Hold on." Jiwoo looked up from her pad. "It's signed by their fleet commander, Captain Minho of the Earth exploration vessel Horizon." For the first time in weeks, Taiho felt something other than despair. Not quite hope, he was too realistic for that, but perhaps a reason to continue, fighting a little longer. "Prepare to receive them," he ordered, and send them all tactical data on the void ships. If they're truly coming to help, they should know exactly what they face. None in that room could have imagined that this small human fleet, representing a species unknown to the galactic community until that moment, would change the fate of not just the Valerian Empire, but of the entire galaxy. The age of abandonment was ending. The age of humanity had begun. Captain Minho walked slowly down the long path toward the throne at the far end of the grand hall. The floor beneath his boots was made of a smooth material that glowed with a soft blue light. He tried not to stare at the ceiling, where crystal spires reached upward toward a perfect view of space. Stars twinkled through the transparent roof as if they were close enough to touch. 20 human officers followed behind him in a neat line. They wore the dark blue uniforms of Earth's United Space Fleet. Each step echoed in the massive room. Along both sides stood tall Valerian guards with silver armor and weapons unlike anything humans had seen before. At the end of the hall, Emperor Taiho waited on a raised platform. He was taller than the tallest human by at least 2 feet. His skin had a faint blue tint, and his eyes were large and completely black. The crown on his head seemed to be made of the same crystal as the spires overhead. Minho stopped at the proper distance and bowed as he had been instructed. Emperor Taiho, I bring greetings from Earth and the United Nations Space Command. We received your distress call and have come to offer whatever assistance we can. The Emperor studied the human captain for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was deep but clear. Captain Minho of Earth, I thank you for your response, but I must ask, do you fully understand what you have committed your people to? The void hegemony has conquered species with technology far more advanced than what I see your ships possess. They have weapons that can turn planets to dust. Even our oldest allies have fled rather than face them. Minho stood straight, meeting the Emperor's gaze. We understand the risks, Your Majesty, but humans have a saying. The true measure of courage is helping others when everyone else walks away. We couldn't hear your call for help and simply ignore it. A slight change passed over the Emperor's face, surprise perhaps or respect. Then we welcome your aid, however unlikely our success may be, said Taiho. My advisors will share all tactical information about the Void Forces. After the formal meeting, humans and Valerians began working together. In the main defense center, Engineer Do-hyun bent over a control panel, her dark hair falling forward as she studied the Valerian shield systems. 3 Valerian technicians watched nearby. This is amazing, she said, looking up with wide eyes. Your shield technology is much more advanced than ours. The energy efficiency is remarkable. The lead Valerian technician named Wonho nodded. Yet you say our deployment patterns are flawed. Do-hyun pulled up a simulation on the large screen. Look here. Your shield formations are perfect geometric patterns, very beautiful and mathematically precise, but also predictable. The void ships know exactly where to hit you. She tapped a few commands and the pattern changed. If we add randomized elements while maintaining the basic structure, the shields become much harder to target. Wonho stared at the screen. But the randomness creates inefficiencies. Sometimes perfect is the enemy of good, Do-hyun replied with a small smile. Imperfection can be a strength when your enemy expects perfection. The night cycle came, but work did not stop. In the great hall that had been converted to a joint command center, Commander Hyejin shared coffee, a drink the Valerians found fascinating, with several alien officers. Your recorded history shows over 15,000 wars among your own people, said General Jinky, a veteran Valerian officer. Yet you survived. Hyejin nodded. Unfortunately, humans spent most of our history fighting each other. We nearly destroyed ourselves more than once. And yet you emerged stronger, observed Jinky. Most species that engage in such internal conflict destroy themselves before achieving space travel. We learned from our mistakes, Hyejin replied, looking into her cup. The last global war 200 years ago nearly ended us. When it was over, we promised never again to let our differences matter more than our shared humanity. She looked up at the general. And we promised never to abandon those in need again, even strangers. In another part of the palace, Captain Minho walked with Emperor Taiho through a garden of strange plants that seemed to glow from within. "The void will arrive in 15 days, said Taiho. "Even with your help, our chances are slim." "Then we make those 15 days count," Minho replied. "My engineers tell me your technology has much to teach us, and perhaps we have some ideas your people haven't considered." "Why risk everything for strangers?" Taiho asked softly. Minho stopped by a plant with glowing blue flowers. 60 years. Dago Earth suffered a devastating impact from an asteroid. Millions died. We were alone then. No one from beyond our world came to help. We promised that if we ever found other life among the stars, we would be the allies we wished we had when we needed them most. For the first time, Emperor Taiho smiled. Perhaps the universe sent us exactly the allies we need, not the strongest, but the most determined. As dawn broke over the Valerian capital city, human and alien technicians worked side by side, preparing for the coming battle. Against all odds, a spark of hope had been kindled in the heart of a dying empire. General Sunwoo stared at the plan displayed on the large table in the war room. Small lights showed the positions of void hegemony forces across the star map. The tall Valerian general's face showed clear disapproval as he looked from the map to Captain Minho. "This isn't how wars are fought," Sunwoo protested, his deep voice echoing in the chamber. "A proper military response requires direct engagement, with our main fleet against theirs." Captain Minho nodded calmly. "Exactly," he replied with a slight smile. "Which is why the void hegemony won't expect it." Sunwoo's face darkened. "You propose to ignore their battle fleet, to send small teams to attack supply depots and communication stations?" He said the words as if they tasted bad. "Where is the honor in this approach?" Engineer Do-hyun, who stood beside Minho, spoke up. "With respect, General, honor won't save your people if we lose. The Void fleet outnumbers yours 5-1. The Void expects us to meet them in direct battle, because that's what you've always done," Minho explained. "They know your tactics. They've studied them. They're counting on you to fight the way you always have." Emperor Taiho, who had been listening quietly, raised his hand to silence further objections from Sunwoo. "We will try Captain Minho's approach. Prepare the strike teams as he has outlined." 3 days later, the first reports came back. A small ship slipped through the palace defense shield and landed in the main hangar. Commander Hyejin walked down the ramp, tired but smiling. She carried a small black box. "Mission accomplished," she reported to the gathered leaders. "The Void supply station in the Kestrel Nebula has been disabled. We also captured this." She held up the box. "Their main communications array." Similar reports came in over the next 12 hours. Small teams, each with both humans and Valerians, had struck 17 targets across Void-controlled space. Not one direct battle had been fought. Instead, they had slipped in, completed their missions and disappeared before the Void forces could respond. For the first time in months, the mood in the palace changed. The Valerian officers, who had first viewed the humans with doubt, now looked at them with new respect. In the secure laboratory beneath the palace, Emperor Taiho and Captain Minho stood before the captured Void transmission device. Scientists worked around them, studying the strange black box. "My intelligence officers detected unusual energy signatures coming from this device," Taiho explained. His long fingers hovered over the box without touching it. "It appears to be projecting more than just communication signals." Chief Scientist Minji looked up from her instruments. "He's right. This device generates subtle patterns that affect brain activity. Not enough to control minds directly, but enough to influence emotions, particularly fear." Minho's eyes widened. "The hegemony has been manipulating the Council for years," he said slowly, "making them more afraid, more willing to abandon allies." "Yes," said Taiho. "They didn't just defeat us with ships. They isolated us first by turning our allies against us." In the following week, the joint human-Valerian forces continued their unconventional campaign. They never engaged the main Void fleet. Instead, they struck quickly at weak points, disappeared, then struck again elsewhere. The Void commanders couldn't predict where they would attack next. Engineer Do-hyun made another critical discovery while studying captured Void technology. "Their shield systems operate on a harmonic frequency," she explained to the War Council. If we adjust our weapons to create a counter-frequency, we can collapse their shields with much less power. General Sunwoo, who had begun to warm to the human methods, leaned forward. Can we apply this to attack their flagship? Yes, Do-Yun replied, but we'll only get one chance before they adapt. The plan was set. While the main Void Fleet searched for the elusive strike teams, a small but powerful attack force, led by Admiral Jiwoo and Captain Minho, approached the Void flagship. Using the captured communication codes, they transmitted false information that kept the Void escorts away. The battle was brief but intense. The flagship's shields failed when hit with the counter-frequency weapons. Within minutes, the massive ship, 3 times the size of anything in the Valerian fleet, drifted powerless in space. News of the flagship's fall spread quickly across the galaxy. The Void hegemony, thought to be unstoppable, had been dealt its first major defeat. On worlds that had once been allied with the Valerian Empire, people watched the reports with growing interest. In the Palace Command Center, Admiral Jiwoo monitored incoming transmissions. "We're receiving signals from several former allied worlds," she reported, her voice carefully neutral. "They're asking about our new strategy. Maybe they'll reconsider their abandonment now," she added skeptically. Emperor Taiho stood by the large window overlooking his capital city. For the first time in months, the streets below were filled with people celebrating, rather than preparing for evacuation. "Whether they do or not," he responded, turning to face the room, "I have found true allies in humanity." Captain Minho stepped forward. "This is just the beginning. The Void still controls most of their territory. They'll adapt to our tactics. Then we'll adapt again," said General Sunwoo, surprising everyone. The old general gave Minho a respectful nod. "Perhaps there is honor in victory by clever means after all." As they spoke, far across the galaxy, the Void hegemony called a special council of their war leaders. For the first time in their long campaign of conquest, they faced an enemy who refused to fight by the expected rules, an enemy who brought hope where they had carefully cultivated fear. The humans would need to be dealt with, and soon. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with soft blue light. Massive pillars rose to a ceiling so high it disappeared in shadows. Around a circular table sat representatives from 37 spacefaring species. Some looked almost human. Others were so different they needed special environments just to breathe. Representative Jiho from Earth stood in the center of the chamber. She was small compared to many of the aliens, but she stood straight and confident. Her simple blue uniform had none of the elaborate decorations worn by the other representatives. "The Council has recognized Representative Jiho of Earth," announced the moderator, a tall being with 4 arms. "This is the first time a human has addressed this body." Jiho looked around the chamber. "I come before you today not to ask for membership in your council. Earth is young among the stars. We know our place." She paused. "I come instead to speak truth that has been hidden from you." A murmur went through the chamber. The representative from the Ardelian world shifted uncomfortably. "For 300 cycles, the Valerian Empire has been your ally," Jiho continued. "Emperor Taiho fought beside many of your peoples against common threats. Yet when the Void hegemony came, you abandoned him and his people." "The containment strategy was logical," interrupted the mock-site representative, his voice translated through a device on his collar. "The Void hegemony agreed to limit their expansion if we did not interfere." "And you believed them?" Jiho asked. She nodded to her assistant, who activated a device. Above the council table appeared a projection of the black box captured from the Void flagship. "This is a Void communication device," Jiho explained, "but it does more than transmit messages. It projects subtle energy patterns that affect brain chemistry. It amplifies fear and suspicion." Scientists in white coats stepped forward with instruments. They confirmed what Jiho claimed. The box generated signals that could influence emotions. "You abandoned Emperor Taiho not because of strategy," Jiho declared, her voice rising, "but because of fear implanted by the very enemy you sought to avoid. Humans reject this calculation. We stand with those who stand against tyranny." The chamber erupted in voices, some angry, some defensive, some thoughtful. Far from the council chamber, in the space near the Valerian homeworld, a battle raged. The Void hegemony had launched its largest assault yet. 200 ships against the combined human-Valerian force of only 60. On the bridge of the flagship Guardian, Admiral Jiwoo watched the enemy approaching on the main screen. Beside her, Captain Minho studied the tactical display. "They've adapted to our hit-and-run tactics," Minho observed. "They've tightened their formations and reinforced their communication networks." Jiwoo nodded grimly. "We can't avoid direct battle this time." Engineer Do-hyun looked up from her station. "The shield frequency countermeasures won't work again. They've randomized their harmonics just like we did with ours." The first wave of Void ships opened fire. The Guardian shook as energy blasts hit its shields. "Shields at 70%, reported a Valerian officer. The battle raged for hours. Human ingenuity combined with Valerian technology put up a strong fight. But the numbers were against them. One by one, ships from the combined fleet were disabled or destroyed. "Shields at 15%, came the report. "We cannot sustain this much longer." Admiral Jiwoo and Captain Minho exchanged looks. They both knew what it meant. There would be no retreat. They would fight until the end. Then the sensor officer shouted in surprise, "New ships appearing, 30! No, 40 vessels just exited faster than light on the edge of the battlefield." "More Void reinforcements?" Jiwoo asked, her heart sinking. "No," said the officer in disbelief. They're Ardelian warships." The newcomers immediately opened fire on the Void fleet. Their fresh ships cut through the enemy formation, which had been focused entirely on the human Valerian forces. "We're being hailed," said the communications officer. The screen changed to show an Ardelian commander. His species looked somewhat like the Valerians, but with red-tinted skin and broader shoulders. "This is Commander Eunjun of the Ardelian Defense Force," he announced. "We request permission to join your battle group." Admiral Jiwoo could hardly believe what she was hearing. "The Ardelian government voted to abandon us weeks ago." "The government, yes," replied Eunjun, "but I and others disagreed. When we heard how humans came to your aid, a species new to space with no obligation to fight, we could not stand by any longer." His eyes seemed to shine with emotion. "Your humans inspired me, Admiral. They reminded us of what we once were, before fear ruled our decisions. With the Ardelian reinforcements, the tide of battle turned. The Void fleet, not prepared for this new threat, began to withdraw. What had seemed like certain defeat became an unexpected victory. In the aftermath, as damage reports came in and rescue ships searched for survivors, a Valerian sensor officer called out in alarm. "Long-range sensors have detected movement from the main Void hegemony fleet. They've changed course. They're no longer heading toward our territory." "Where are they going?" asked Admiral Jiwoo. The officer looked up, his face pale. "Based on their trajectory, they're heading directly toward Earth." The command center fell silent. Captain Minho stared at the display in horror. Earth had minimal defenses compared to the Valerian worlds. His homeworld would be defenseless against the coming storm. Emperor Taiho, who had been quietly observing from the side of the bridge, stepped forward. "They fear what humanity represents," he said softly. "A species immune to their manipulation, a people who choose courage over fear, who stand with allies when logic might suggest abandonment." He placed a hand on Minho's shoulder. "They believe, if they destroy Earth, they will break our alliance and return the galaxy to the fear they have cultivated for so long." "We must warn Earth," Minho said urgently. "We will do more than warn them," declared Emperor Taiho. "The Valerian fleet will stand with Earth just as you stood with us." He turned to Commander Eunjun. "Will the Ardelians join us?" "Every ship I command," Eunjun promised. As orders went out to prepare for the journey to Earth, Admiral Jiwoo approached Captain Minho. "Do you think we can reach Earth before them?" "We must," Minho replied simply. "Everything depends on it now." The massive gas planet Jupiter glowed orange in the distance as ships gathered in its orbit. First came the Earth defense vessels, only 30 ships, small and simple compared to the others that soon arrived. Then the Valerian fleet appeared, 100 ships strong, their hulls gleaming with silver and blue markings. The Ardelians brought 45 warships. Most surprising were the vessels from 5 other species who had once stood with the Galactic Council against the Valerians. On the bridge of the Earth flagship Defender, Captain Minho stared out at the gathering fleet with a mixture of hope and worry. Earth had never seen such a collection of alien ships in its space. Most humans on the planet below had no idea of the danger coming toward them. "The Void Fleet will arrive in 6 hours," reported Engineer Do-hyun from her station. 270 ships, including their 3 remaining command vessels. Minho nodded. "Status of our combined fleet?" 232 ships. "Total," she answered. "We're still outnumbered, but not by much now." A message came through from the main Valerian ship. Emperor Taiho's face appeared on the large screen. "Captain, we've received a transmission from the Galactic Council. They demand to know why I have committed my entire remaining fleet to defend Earth rather than my own homeworld." Minho frowned. "What did you tell them?" Taiho's expression showed a hint of what might have been a smile. "I told them the truth. Humans helped us when no one would. The Valerians repay their debts." A communication officer called out, "Captain, we're receiving offers of assistance from 7 more species. They're sending ships to join us." Minho turned in surprise. Most of these were species who had once been hostile to both Earth and the Valerians. Now they were coming to fight alongside them. Admiral Jiwoo, who had transferred to the Defender to help coordinate the defense, shook her head in wonder. The Void hegemony made a mistake targeting Earth. They thought it would frighten the others back into isolation. Instead, they've united the galaxy against them. When the Void Fleet finally arrived, they found not an easy target, but a prepared and united force waiting for them. The space around Jupiter lit up with weapons fire. Ships moved in formations that combined human unpredictability with alien technology. On the Defender's command deck, Captain Minho worked with officers from 7 different species. The strange mix of aliens who had never fought together before found unity in their common purpose. "Their center formation is breaking," called out a Moxite tactical officer. "Focus fire on their lead command ship," ordered Minho. "Just as we planned." The combined fleet moved with surprising coordination. Smaller, faster Earth vessels darted between the massive alien warships, drawing fire and creating openings that the heavier ships exploited. The battle raged for hours. Ships were lost on both sides. But the Void hegemony, facing unified resistance for the first time, began to falter. HFY. Turning point came when Engineer Do-hyun activated a special signal. It broadcast the counter-frequency to the Void Mind Influence technology, neutralizing their greatest hidden weapon. Without their ability to spread fear, the Void tactics became less effective. "Their command ship is retreating," announced Admiral. Jiwoo, the Void fleet began to break apart, individual ships trying to escape rather than fight together. The combined fleet pressed their advantage, not allowing the enemy to regroup. When the battle ended, the Void hegemony fleet lay in ruins. Those ships that survived fled back toward their territory, pursued by fast attack vessels, to ensure they did not return. In the days that followed, representatives from 23 spacefaring species met on Earth. They signed what became known as the Galactic Cooperation Accord, with humanity and the Valerians as its founding members. The agreement promised mutual defense and cooperation, a new approach to galactic relations based on unity rather than isolation. 1 year later, Emperor Taiho stood under the open sky in Seoul. It was his first visit to Earth. Around him gathered thousands of humans and representatives from many alien worlds. They had come for the dedication of the new interstellar embassy, a beautiful building that combined architectural elements from each member species of the Accord. Taiho looked different now. The strain that had marked his face during the war had faded. He wore ceremonial robes of blue and silver, and his crown caught the sunlight as he approached the podium to speak. "People of Earth and honored guests from across the stars," he began, his voice translated through devices so all could understand. "1 year ago we faced extinction. The Void hegemony nearly succeeded in their plan to divide and conquer us all." He looked out over the crowd, noting the many different species standing together peacefully. "The universe is full of intelligent species," he continued, "many with technologies far beyond what humans have achieved. Yet humans taught us the difference between intelligence and wisdom. When all others calculated the risks and fled, Humanity alone asked not, "What will we gain?" but "What is right?" In the front row, Captain Minho, now Admiral Minho, stood with his crew. Beside him were Admiral Jiwoo, Engineer Do-hyun, and Commander Hyejin, all wearing medals given by both Earth and Valerian authorities. "That is why the stars themselves now shine brighter in your skies," Tai-ho concluded, gesturing upward where a few stars were visible even in the daylight. "They reflect the light of hope you have restored to the galaxy." As the crowd applauded, a child in the front row raised her hand. Emperor Tai-ho, breaking with formal protocol, nodded to her. "Are the bad aliens gone forever?" she asked. Tai-ho knelt down to be closer to her level. "The void hegemony is defeated, but not destroyed. There will always be challenges among the stars, but now we face them together, not alone." The child nodded seriously, then smiled. "Together is better." "Yes," agreed the Emperor of the Valerians, the once abandoned warrior king who had found unlikely salvation in humanity's courage. "Together is better. That is the lesson your people taught the stars." As night fell over Seoul, ships from a dozen worlds lit up the sky with beautiful patterns of light, a cosmic celebration of the new era of cooperation that had been born from humanity's simple choice to help when all others had turned away.